egg boxes. Normally they get thrown in the bin, but I think these might be the answer to everything. Welcome to the trial of the century, involving carrots and egg boxes. Now, whether you like your carrots diced or shredded, roasted or cut up into sticks, they're a staple vegetable in every household. But they aren't the easiest things to grow. I've had trouble with them in the past, especially early on in the season, when the temperatures aren't up, the soil temperatures are down, the slugs are out. But with this trial, I think I'm onto something. I think I may have cracked the code on the curious carrot. This will be a 3 or 4 part series, and I'm going to show you the progress as we go along through the season. So buckle up and let's go. So with the seeds, I'm going to be using Nance 5 across the board to keep it nice and fair. These are a great carrot, good all-rounder, and they have a heavy yield. So I'll start with the traditional way first, and then we'll crack on with the egg boxes. I will time both methods differently so that we've got a gauge at the end of how long each method takes and whether it's actually worth it. So let's get over to the carrot bed and start sowing. I'm just going to start by giving the compost a little rake over with my fingers to break up any big lumps and get any stones or big twigs out. But this compost has only been down 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks, and already it just, like, with your fingers, it just crumbles up after a bit of weathering. You can see the difference, like the bed left of me that I've not done. What I'm going to do is split this bed into half. We're going to do the traditional way in this half and the new egg box way in this half. Normally I'd go down this with rows of carrots, but it's going to be quite hard to separate the two trials. So I'm just going to go horizontally across the beds with this one. So with the traditional method, I normally do them about 30 centimeters apart, and on this dibber it has different measurements. So I'm just going to put my first row roughly, just mark it out so I know where I am. So what I'll do is I'll do 3 rows traditionally and leave the bigger space for the egg box way, because I'm going to do a trial within that trial of how many egg boxes together I can get and see how they grow. So now I've got them roughly marked out, we get a bit of wood, and I normally just press down about 1 centimetre, leaving about 2 inches from each edge. And I do apologise, there are some tree surgeons just over the back there cutting down a tree and going berserk with a chainsaw and shouting at each other. You see how it creates a nice little channel, roughly 30 centimetres apart. And then I just run my finger along the channel just to get any bigger lumps out. Now, last year was a terrible year for carrots because of the wet spring and the slugs, so I just had to constantly keep re-sowing. So hopefully, I think this egg box method should help. Once we've got our drills marked out, I'm going to run a water along it real quick, because with dry weather, and we're still due dry weather, which is strange for this time of the year. And then once we've watered, I'm just going to get a handful of seeds and then work my way down here. You want to oversow, so you want to sow more than you need, just because some of the seeds might not germinate, and you can go ahead on a later date once they've germinated and thin them out to the suitable distance. So I always like to put more than I need down anyway. With all 3 drills having plenty of seed in it now, I'm just going to mark either end so I know where they are. And then with my fingers, I'm just going to lightly cover the seeds up and give them a little tamp down. You can use your tools to do this, but I just like using my hands. I like getting my hands in the soil. It's good for you, all their microbes that help with the serotonin, which is why you feel good when you're in the garden. And like I said, because we're due dry weather, I'm just gonna run over it quickly, just so that top layer of compost is moist. And that's it, we'll stop the timer on the traditional way. Now I'm going to take you into the greenhouse and we'll sow, well, we'll not sow, we'll get the germination process started on the egg box method. Right, I've got my tissue, I've got my seeds, so I'm just going to soak the tissue with some rainwater, just so it's all damp. And I'd highly encourage rainwater over tap water. And what we'll do is get the seeds. I'm going to put them in my hand first so I can distribute them quite easily. These carrot seeds are quite small, so I don't want them to be all in lots of piles. And I'm just going to sprinkle over the tissue paper to ensure there's a good covering. And then I'm just going to lay some tissue over the top, and it's already started absorbing some of the water. But if it's just give it another little sprinkle so it's all completely wet. And like I said, we'll wrap that with cling film, take it home and let the germination start. Fast forward 5 days and we have some action in the carrot seeds. We have little sprouts and they've started to germinate. So we need to get them in these egg boxes ASAP. We've got our egg boxes and we've got our seeds. What next? Well, first we're going to get our egg boxes and we're going to poke a hole out the bottoms, which will allow the taproot to go straight through into the ground outside. And then we're going to fill them up with compost, poke a little hole and place one of these germinated seeds in each cell. And what that's going to save is the thinning out process, because this cell is bang on the average size of a carrot. So it means no thinning out. So there's going to be a bit of time now, but in the long run, it will save us, I think. I'm not sure. I'm completely new to this. It's the first time I've done this, but a lot of people have raved about it. So we're going to try it. I'm willing to risk half of my carrot bed for you guys. So I have my egg boxes lined out. I've started the timer on the egg box method, and I'm just going to give them a little squirt of water in each cell, just so it helps me poke a hole out the bottom. Because I found doing it without soaking the bottoms first, it's not very good. It just rips the egg boxes, but this, they just push straight through. So now I've soaked all them, I'm just going to push a hole in the bottom of each cell, poke these through. See how much easier it is when they're wet, and then you're left with that, and then you just tear them off. But don't put these in the bin. These are perfect for the compost heap. So we'll use Rocco's watering can as a little storage container for them, and that's it. Perfect, ready. I'm just going to crack on, get all these done, and then we'll go and fill them with compost. I'm just going to use the standard multi-purpose compost, but I am going to sieve it like I do with my other seedlings, because I want to give it the seeds the best chance. And with carrot taproots being so delicate and fussy, I want to get them off to a fighting start. And then it's just a case of filling the egg boxes up. And with them being quite shallow, they don't take much compost, so I'm just going to give them a light firm down. A little tap, and that's the badger. So let me get cracking with these, and then I'll show you how I put the seeds into each cell. Well, we're on a roll. I thought it'd take a lot longer than it has done so far, but now with the cells full of compost, I'm just going to give the cells a quick soak, just so the seed is going into wet compost. Not saturated, just lightly moist, because it's been in a lightly moist environment, so it'll kind of match it. Just going to get these last few moist, and then we'll dip some holes and get the seeds in. Just been bought out a coffee, so let's get some holes dibbed, and I'll show you how I do the seeds. It's quite delicate. I use a pair of tweezers, don't tell Daniela, and I'll just pick them out and put them in. I've got my little dibber, and I'm just going to go along and poke a little hole about 1 centimetre deep, just in the centre of each cell. I'm going to get our little seeds and very carefully, without getting the root, we're going to pop him in the hole. The positive I'm seeing so far with this method is that 5 days in, we know that these seeds have already germinated, and in each cell there's a good seed going in. Whereas the ones outside, we haven't got a clue what's going on because they're underground. There's nothing come out the top yet, and I don't expect nothing to come out the top until another week or so. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with these ones compared to the others. With all the new seedlings being in place, I'm just going to lightly just cover the holes up a little bit with some fresh sieved compost, not really firming it down or moving the compost in any way because I don't want to damage the little roots that are in there. This is just to cover up the seeds. And then once this is done, it's time to get them in the ground. So we're outside now. I've brought the egg boxes out. What I did is I used a hoe to drill out the top layer of compost in order to sit the egg boxes in, and then we'll just lightly cover it back over to the compost. I didn't go down into the soil, I just took the top layer of compost that I put on this year, so I've not disturbed the soil one bit. And like I said before, I'm going to do a trial within a trial. So what I've done is I've done one row, which will keep as the test row to match these rows, because they're just single rows. So even if you were to do it this way, you're going to grow more carrots than in a single row because you've got 2 rows. So you're already doubling your crop. And then with this, I just want to see if you can get away with growing more rows together with them being evenly spaced. I want to see how they grow. And if this way does work, you're much better off doing carrots this way because you're going to have such a bigger harvest in such a smaller space. It'd be ideal to fill like the whole of the bed. And just in them 3 traditional rows alone is the same as 3 of these rows. So in that space, we've saved half a bed. So I definitely think it's worth it. But with these being in, all we're going to do is just the little mounds that I've created. I'm just going to lightly cover over the tops because they all will settle again. And it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. This, like I said, this is my first time doing this, so I'm not sure what's going to happen. But I've seen lots of people use it and have much success with it. So maybe we've actually sussed carrots out. Because as you can see in the bed next to me, nothing has come up yet. But we know these seeds have already germinated. So if the temperatures stay as they are doing, which is well above 4 or 5 degrees, these will continue to grow. And I'm expecting these in a couple of days to start seeing the seed heads shoot out and see some growth. So the timer has been stopped on this now. We're currently at 16 minutes for the traditional way, and this way has took a little bit longer, but not as long as I thought. We're only at 48 minutes for this, so there's only about half an hour difference so far, and I reckon by the time I come to thin them out and have to re-sow the seeds in the patchy areas, I reckon it'll be about level. So I'd get it saving your egg boxes for sure. So that's part 1 pretty much wrapped up. The next time I'll be here is probably when these need thinning out, which will probably be in about 4 weeks. So keep your eye out for part 2, subscribe and turn your notifications on, then you'll know when it's coming out. But what I'll do is in the meantime, every few days, I'll document the growth and so we can have a good comparison for the next video. See you soon.